Hello, my name is Pastor Marvin Wojda, and it's a joy to talk to you today. The district has asked me to respond to some questions. And I do it out of my own experience, and it, of course, is an experience in a particular local church, in this case, Elam Church in Saskatoon, where I have served for over 31 years. I understand that every ministry setting is unique, and yet there are situations that arise among leadership that have some common elements to them and then some good practices. What I want to share is, of course, not definitive, but I hope it's helpful for your setting, your leadership, to discuss best practices where you serve. The district asked me to respond to this question: how do boards evaluate their key employee, which is usually the lead pastor or the senior pastor? Those, of course, are interchangeable these days. Well, an employee is always being evaluated and reviewed, whether a church has a formal review process or not. And so a wise lead pastor will invite a regularly scheduled formal review process. Usually the formal review will be held annually, and it may be conducted by a committee of the board. Maybe the board will appoint that committee, or it could be conducted by the entire board. In our setting, we have 9 board members, but the formal annual review of the one who serves in my role, lead pastor, follows this process. We have a small committee of the board that is the vice chair, the treasurer, and the secretary of the board, and they serve really on behalf of the board in doing the review. 6 to 8 weeks before the formal review, this committee of the board receives from me what's called a self-evaluation form. It's a document that includes as the lead pastor, my thoughts on what went well, what didn't go well over the past year, what progress was made on ministry plans, and what progress was made on the ends that have been established by the board. So things like how well the ministry plan was followed, and then in that review, there might be an outline of the annual ministry plan for the coming year. Then the committee, or in some cases the board, the committee would meet to go over that self-evaluation, and they would fill out the review document that would be shared with the lead pastor in the next 4, 5, or 6 weeks or so. That committee would also gather other information. That could include what's called a 360-degree evaluation. It could include a skip-a-level consultation, and/or any other means to really get a good picture of the lead pastor's performance. I remember just very recently, the chairperson of this committee came to me and said, "Pastor, we don't get to see you in how you work with staff, so we'd like to go to those that you supervise." In my case, I supervise 3 other pastors, and we'd like to get your permission to consult with them, to talk to them about your performance. I said, "Of course." And so out of that came some good feedback. Well, then, after all of that has been gathered, the committee then meets with the lead pastor to go over the performance evaluation. Now, that review includes the affirming of strengths, and it positively reinforces good performance as well. There's usually 2 or 3 areas where there needs to be more focus or maybe better performance, or some things have been flagged that need to be shared. Now, this process is led in our setting, by the board vice chair. Then, after all of that, at the next board meeting, or whenever appropriate, the board vice chair is given time in the board agenda to give the board a verbal report of the evaluation and invites any further input or questions. I'm also in that meeting, so they can pose those questions to me. And it's usually at this board meeting that there is a salary review, so it's our annual salary review. That way, salary and all of those discussions are tied into performance. Over the past decade, I've actually asked for quarterly informal reviews. So every few months, the committee, this small committee of the board, does this informal review, and usually I lead it. I just say, now, is there anything that you would like to share with me about how things have gone over the last few months? Is there anything you want me to do more of? Is there anything you want me to stop doing? I just want an open discussion that lets me know how I'm doing in terms of my leadership here at Elam. Well, I hope that's helpful.